Ugh, I look terrible. I need to start exercising. Oh, sorry. Well, with the number 19th pick in the first round of the 2021 NFL Draft, we know that the Washington football team has chosen linebacker out of Kentucky, Jamin Davis. Hi everybody, this is Greg. Welcome to this channel. This channel is dedicated to the Washington football team, and if you're a fan of the football team, please consider subscribing to this channel. Hey, even if you're not a fan of the football team, consider subscribing. I think you'll enjoy the channel and the content I bring. And with that, let's get on with today's video. So I certainly felt that the Washington football team was going to either go linebacker or offensive tackle in the first round of this year's draft. And certainly they did not disappoint. They did go with a linebacker, Jamin Davis out of Kentucky. Ron Rivera had a lot of great things to say about Davis, and so I'm pumped. I think he can definitely be a great addition to the Washington football team. Ron Rivera spoke about Davis's athleticism, how he can cover, and certainly the intangibles like a guy with a high character. And that is something that I think when you're building championship football teams, then that is something you really need to have, is players with high character. You want to be able to keep these players, and players with high character who can also get it done on the field. That's just a win-win. And so this is something that we feel like that we're going to have with Jamin Davis. Now certainly he's what I consider a little bit of a high risk, high reward type of player. The reason why he's a bit of a risk is simply the fact that he has not had a lot of experience playing in college. But when he did finally get on the field, the guy balled out. I mean, he is a great football player. I think we are getting a great addition. But he doesn't have a lot of experience. So for him to translate into the NFL, that's going to be a big question mark. However, this is one thing I would definitely say, and not to toot my own Washington football team horn, but our defense is one of the best defenses in the league, and I don't think that is up for debate. And certainly our defensive line is probably the best defensive line in the league right now. So being able to bring in a linebacker that could hopefully make an impact right away, but somebody who may be just a tad bit raw because he has not had a lot of playing time or a lot of experience, at least pairing him up with somebody like Jack Del Rio, and then having that offensive line that he can play behind. So, of course, Chase Young, Deron Payne, Montez Sweat, guys like that, then that's just going to help Jamin Davis. I want to call him Jameis, but it's Jamin Davis. It's just going to help him to succeed, I think, faster. And I think he is truly going to be very successful. So I think this was a great pick for the Washington football team. Now, certainly, I'm kind of biased when it comes to my Virginia Tech Hokies. So I was kind of hoping to see Christian Darrisaw get picked by the Washington football team. And from what I heard, he was really wanting to be in the burgundy and gold. He's a Washington football fan, but nevertheless, it looks like the Vikings were the ones who picked him up. Washington kind of, passed on him. So all that being said, that still doesn't mean that we don't need offensive line help. We definitely need it, and I believe that we're going to probably try to look for that possibly in the second round, maybe in the third round, and possibly too, who knows, maybe another linebacker. We may decide to pick up another one in the second or third round. There's definitely some good options available, and pairing whoever that may be up with Jamin Davis, you're going to have a young linebacking crew, but of course then you have a great defense surrounding those guys. So the pieces are starting to fall in place for the Washington football team. Now, there were a lot of fans who were really hoping that we would have traded up to have grabbed one of the quarterbacks. And I kind of read some of the feedback on my YouTube channel. I want to share that with you. There's just a few comments, but nevertheless, I want to let you know, certainly I do pay attention to those comments. So I want to read just a little bit of what some of my viewers were telling me. So William says, the football team blew it. They needed their quarterback, but they didn't want to move up. They are screwed. Well, okay. Well, look, I said in previous videos, the Washington football team was not going to move up to get a quarterback. Now, I started to kind of think that I may have to change that stance the further that Justin Fields and Mac Jones were starting to drop. But having said that, I still felt like they were either going to let one of those guys drop all the way to number 19, or that if they did trade up, it was going to be to reach for a linebacker or reach for an offensive tackle. But they didn't do any of that. And so I really felt that they were probably either going to move up for another position or they were staying put. They stayed at number 19 and they drafted a linebacker, and it's definitely a position with need. Keep in mind though, we still have the second and third rounds to go. I mean, what was it, Kirk Cousins? I think he came out of either the third or the fourth round. Of course, say what you will about him, but he's a very solid quarterback. Russell Wilson, again, he was not a first rounder. Hey, Tom Brady was definitely not a first rounder. So, let's just kind of cool our jets on that. I don't think you're screwed at all. In fact, we have not had any luck drafting quarterbacks in the first round. I mean, just take a step back into like the last 20 years. I mean, we've had Heath Schuler, which some of you guys probably were too young to remember, but Heath Schuler, then Jason Campbell, he was just not a number one or first rounder. I mean, he was drafted in the first round, but he was an okay talent, but was never truly going to be a franchise quarterback. And then, of course, RG3, who was kind of a flash in a pan for us, and Dwayne Haskins. So we have not had any luck drafting quarterbacks in the first round. To me, I would have almost been scared to death for Washington to have drafted a quarterback in the first round. So I don't know, William. I don't think we're screwed just yet. Keep in mind, tonight's continuation of the draft is almost just as important as the first round. Sometimes I believe, honestly, it could be a little bit more important. So let's just wait and see how the whole draft goes, and then kind of learn from that and go on and just see what happens next. Heavy Chevy says, good thing Washington fans don't actually run a team. They've been used to seeing sorry teams. They don't know what talent looks like. Well, that's true. I've heard some horrendous things that the Washington football team should have done, and they didn't do this, and so they've set the team back 10 years, and now, but on the other hand, in the last 20 years or so, Washington more times than not has really screwed the pooch when it came to decisions. I mean, whether if it was the wrong coaching decision or just getting the wrong players, a little bit of both. Certainly the wrong decisions made in the front office. I mean, this franchise has been a disaster from day one. And what I mean by day one is day one of the Daniel Snyder era. And so, yeah, I can understand the pessimism, but I think if some of the fans who are kind of down on the decisions that this team is making now, I don't think you're really paying a lot of attention. I think this team is actually making a lot of good decisions. They have already changed the culture, and we have seen this. You can just sense a culture change within this franchise, and you don't have to be directly involved with this franchise to see it. You can just kind of see it on the faces of the employees. And you're starting to see players who want to come to Washington to play. In the past, it was like, I'll only come there if they're paying me this huge salary, and I'll be there for 2 or 3 years, and then I'll see if I can double dip and go somewhere else and make a lot of money. You're not really seeing a lot of that. You're starting to see more of a what I consider a positive stability being formed. And so I just believe that as much as that I know all of us have gotten hurt as fans in the past, whenever we started to believe in this team, they would take 2 steps backwards. But I think at this point, I've seen this team for 40 plus years. And so believe me when I say that there's something so different about this time than what it was in any other time. And I've been in that position to where I, was trying to make myself believe that this time this is different. We're starting to see this team, turn the corner, and then all of a sudden it's like the rug would get pulled out from under them, and they were just horrible again. And so I don't see that happening this time. I think Rivera is building this team correctly, and he's got the guys in the front office together. He's got the perfect nucleus, I think, to make this franchise into something very special. And so I think we just need to keep that faith for a little bit and just trust in the process. And that's something that Ron Rivera has been saying this whole time, is to trust the process. So I'm going to continue trusting the process until they have all proven me wrong. Chop Shop says, I'm sorry, but Jamin Davis is not the first round steal I was hoping for. I don't think he's a first round pick. He should have gone in the second or the third. Well, I mean, it's possible that if Washington had decided to pick Christian Darrisaw, for instance, that they may have had an opportunity to maybe, trade up or allow Jamin Davis to even drop into the third round, maybe down to 51. I don't think that Jamin Davis would have dropped that far, though. It is possible that he could have, I'm sorry, not the third round, but the second round. But it is possible that he could have slipped into the second round. Certainly could have been possible. But I don't think he would have been there at 51. I think the Washington football team would have needed to have probably traded up if that had happened. Now, that was definitely a gamble that possibly maybe they should have tried or taken. Because certainly if he was not there, there were some other linebackers who I think could be, I won't say as effective, but could certainly be good pickups. Having said that, they picked who they picked at number 19. I don't think it was a reach. I think it's definitely possible had the Washington football team not picked Jamin Davis at number 19, somebody behind the Washington football team would have picked him up before the end of the first round. I just feel like that's probably what would have happened. And so, having said that, I think it's a good pickup, but I do think it is a risk. And I've said that, a few minutes before, and I'll keep kind of repeating that yes, it's definitely a risk, but I think it's one that Washington needed to take. And Stephen White says, future Hall of Famer. Man, I just love the enthusiasm from some Washington football team fans. I love the optimism, and I hope so, man. I hope so, because right now, I mean, I could definitely see this defense already having some future Hall of Famers on the team. I mean, Montez Sweat the dude just continued to impress me last year. And of course, Chase Young, he's always going to impress. I mean, that dude, you could probably almost go ahead and order his Hall of Fame jacket now. I mean, he's definitely going to be a future Hall of Famer in my opinion. But Jamin Davis, who knows? Well, he has the abilities. He is very athletic. And if we can develop him into the linebacking monster that we hope that he can be, then who knows? I mean, I'm not worried about Hall of Fame right now. I'm just worried about getting this team back to the Super Bowl. So if Davis can assist with that and make some plays for this team, then I'm fine. But hey, man, I love it. Hall of Fame for sure. Now, coming up in the second and third rounds, what am I thinking is going to happen tonight? Well, I really think that the Washington football team is still going to look at offensive line. And it's possible they also look at safety because that could be a position that they may want to kind of help to further deepen as well. But we are going to have Landon Collins back, and then certainly Cameron Curl, he really showed us what he could do last year as well. But having said all that, it would not hurt us to pick up another linebacker. Definitely we need help along the offensive line. We really need to build that up. I want to have a bruising offensive tackle that can just, kind of like a Joe Jacoby type of guy who could just bulldoze people and open up huge running lanes for Antonio Gibson and just, be that type of player. And I'm hoping that we can definitely pick up somebody like that in the second or third rounds. But again, I also mentioned before, if you have not watched my video on Davis Mills, please check it out. I'll have the card handy for you to kind of click on that and go to that. But I really like Davis Mills, quarterback. And I think, one reason why I like Davis Mills simply the fact he has come from a pro-style offense. Stanford seems to churn those guys like that out. And I've kind of compared him to the likes of, Andrew Luck, for instance. And so I really like Davis Mills, and I would love to see him come to Washington. And so there's a possibility that maybe Washington uses their 51st pick on Mills. And so if you bring in Mills, now you got your quarterback. But you still need to make sure that you got a super fantastic offensive line. Remember, I think championships are won in the trenches. That's what they always say. And so being able to build up the offensive line is extremely important. And as much as that we all want that franchise quarterback, if we don't go that option at all in this draft, it's not going to be the end of the world. And it's not saying that we're giving up on this year whatsoever. I think we have enough talent at quarterback that we could possibly win the NFC East again. But if they do go quarterback, my choice would be Davis Mills. From what I've seen from him, just really like him. I think that he can be molded into a fantastic, solid quarterback. If not him, I know a lot of people are very high on Kellen Mond. A lot of the pro football rankings kind of have him ranked higher than some of the other second round type of talent. Out of all of those quarterbacks, I would definitely go with a Davis Mills. I think he is more pro ready. Having played at Stanford, that's always a big thing. To me, they always get people ready for the NFL. And I just really honestly believe that Davis would be a little further along than maybe someone like Kellen Mond or Kyle Trask. I never know how to pronounce his last name. He was my second pick because the more I read up on him and the more that I kind of watched a little bit of tape and highlights and whatnot, kind of reminds me of Mark Rippon, because Rippon, the one good thing that Rippon could really do is just that long ball down the field. And so this is something that Trice seems to have an advantage of, I believe. And so I would not mind taking a look at him as well. I think he may be a pretty good pickup too. But those guys are certainly going to get drafted by somebody. And a lot of the quarterback-hungry teams have already gotten their quarterbacks. And who knows what's going to happen. We also have the added variable with the news we've been hearing about Aaron Rodgers, and how Rodgers is unhappy with Green Bay and doesn't want to play for Green Bay next year. Certainly all of us Washington football fans were like, Ryan Fitzpatrick who? But I guess my fanatic in me wants to see Washington go ahead and draft a quarterback, because I feel like, okay, he doesn't have to start this year. He's not this big first rounder, so the expectations are not going to be huge for this guy. So this is great. We'll bring him in, and he will be someone that we can develop, and then next year he'll be ready to start, and then we can actually start going for championships and playoffs on a regular basis and all that. However, my head feels like we're not quite there yet. I feel like we are still going to pick more pieces that we may need on defense, and I think we're really going to look at the offensive line. We really need offensive line help, and so I believe that is probably where Ron Rivera is going to go. And who knows, maybe he also looks at another running back, because we're probably not going to have McKissick after the 21 season. So we're going to need some help provided for Antonio Gibson. Of course, then again, that stuff can be had next season as well. So honestly, I believe second round, I'm going to say that second round we're going to probably draft Davis Mills, and then in the third round we're going to start looking for some more offensive line help. That is where I think we're going to go. Now let's see how far off I am when we get to rounds 2 and 3. All right. Well, I've rambled long enough. Thank you guys. I have not been in front of the camera as of late, as you could probably tell, and I think those faceless videos probably do a lot better. You don't want to look at this ugly mug, but I felt like I needed to kind of be here in person to just go over how I felt about the draft and what I think we're going to look for in the near future, especially tonight. I'm going to try to get this video out as fast as I can. It's kind of long, so if you want to fast forward through some of it, do what you got to do, okay? Well, all right, guys, we will be back very soon to go over rounds 2 and 3, so take care. Have a great day.